It's Wednesday, December 21st, and this is now on HNN.
President Zelensky of the United States stands with the brave people of Ukraine.
Ukraine's President Zelensky visits the U.S. as Russia's war continues.
If you're flying, be prepared to be delayed, disrupted, and canceled, and Christmas dinner may be at an airport.
A first alert to a once-in-a-generation winter storm that is expected to impact nearly every state on the mainland and cripple holiday travel.
Plus, cleanup efforts roll on days after severe weather pummeled the island chain.
I know the price that I want to spend.
And if you're last-minute holiday shopping, no worries, we've got some great gift ideas for you. That's coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon. Thanks for watching This Is Now. You got Jonathan and Mark here in the HNN Digital Center wanting to get started with some breaking news from the nation's capital.
That's right. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is meeting with President Biden at the White House. Here's a portion from their joint press conference moments ago.
As we head into the new year, it's important for the American people and for the world to hear directly from you, Mr. President, about Ukraine's fight and the need to continue to stand together through 2023. This visit also falls on the 300-day mark of Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine. 300 days since Putin launched an unprovoked, unjustified, all-out assault on the free people of Ukraine. 300 days of Ukrainian people showing Russia and the world their steel backbone, their love of country, and their unbreakable determination, and I emphasize unbreakable determination, to choose their own path. To Ukrainian people, I say to them all, you have demonstrated, you have shown your strong stand against aggression in the face of the imperial appetites of autocrats who wrongfully believe they might be able to make might right, and they're not able to do it.
And for more on this significant meeting, let's bring in Hawaii News Now White House correspondent John Decker. John, thank you very much for joining us. Now, this is Zelensky's first international trip since Russia invaded Ukraine. What does he hope to achieve in Washington?
Well, what President Zelensky did upon arriving here at the White House and having a very long meeting in the Oval Office with President Biden is to express his gratitude, his thanks to President Biden, to Congress, and to the American people for all of the support that they have given Ukraine since the beginning of this war back on February the 24th. And to that end, that support is continuing. President Biden today, Mark, announcing a $2 billion security assistance program, included in that a battery of Patriot missiles, and this is something that President Zelensky has been asking for literally months. It will be very helpful in terms of dealing with the barrage of Russian missiles which have been rained down on Ukrainian territory for the past few months. So that's a big part of it. And of course, later tonight, there will be a meeting of Congress, a joint session. President Zelensky will address Democrats and Republicans in the House chamber to express his gratitude there and also tell them that security assistance needs to continue. It needs to continue for the foreseeable future so that Ukraine can ultimately win back the territory that is taken from them by the Russian military.
And John, there are so many different aspects to this visit, you know, the significance of him traveling. Describe the security measures used to protect Zelensky on his travels.
This was an operation that was secretive, but also full of measures to protect the security of President Zelensky. First of all, a train was taken by President Zelensky from Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, to Poland, and from Poland, that's where a U.S. military jets transported President Zelensky ultimately here to Washington, D.C., to Joint Base Andrews Air Force Base, just south of Washington, D.C., and that those same security measures will be in place in getting President Zelensky back to his home country, and that will happen immediately after he concludes his joint session, this speech to a joint session of Congress.
And John, we talked about the missiles and the weapons support that Zelensky has been seeking. What's included in the $2 billion security assistance package headed to Ukraine?
Well, a big chunk of that has to do with that Patriot missile system that President Zelensky has been asking for months. Not only did President Biden agree to that, but there will be training involved. These missile systems are very sophisticated. They require 90 soldiers to operate these anti-ballistic missiles. And what it does is, you may recall all the way back to the Persian Gulf War, it essentially shoots those incoming missiles out of the sky. Now, the Russian missiles over the past few months have attacked civilian sectors of Ukraine. They've also attacked Ukraine's energy grid. And that's the reason why President Zelensky said that these Patriot missile systems were so necessary. So training will take place over the course of the next few months, likely in a third country like Germany, and these missile systems will likely be in place, ready to operate, likely by the late spring of 2023.
As always, really appreciate your insight. John Decker, Hawaii News Now White House correspondent. Mahalo nui for joining us. John, happy holidays.
All right, we are still talking about Monday's First Alert Weather Day. Dylan and Cheta, we're bringing them into the H&N Digital Center to talk more about just that. Dylan, I know you were reporting on Hawaii Island. What kind of impacts are still being felt there?
Yeah, Jonathan, several days have passed since that system barreled over the state, and residents on Hawaii Island are still dealing with downed trees, power outages in isolated areas, and folks there are growing concerned. Yesterday, we got an update from Hawaiian Electric in which we learned that about 800 total customers, 400 in Waipio Valley, about 300 in Ahualoa, and another 100 are still without power. Now, crews are working around the clock to fix the power lines and restore them, but there are still so many trees down and roads blocked that crews just need to wait for those trees to get cleared before they can repair the transmission lines. And what's especially concerning about these power outages is that yesterday, as I mentioned, Hawaiian Electric provided an update, and they said Waipio Valley customers, they could be without power until Friday. So that's a long time. That's almost a week now. Other places like Ahualoa, Thursday is the estimated restoration date. And Ocean View, there's about 100 customers there late Wednesday into Thursday. But overall, they are hanging on there for the time being.
Yeah, that is a long time to be without power, especially during this holiday season when you were wanting to prep for any sort of holiday events that you might have over the weekend. I know you did speak with one woman who is virtually trapped at her residence. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, so her name is Paula Nurse. She lives in Ahualoa. Her house is actually about 1.5, almost 2 miles away from the main highway there in Ahualoa. There are 3 ways in and out of her house. She said all of them are completely blocked by downed trees. She sent us video of the damage to, luckily, her greenhouse and storage shed were the only ones that suffered damage. Her main house was okay.
A mess. It's just a mess. There's debris and there's even a dead cat out there. And there's branches and leaves and twigs.
I know, real quickly, you talked to the mayor as well. What is he saying about those repairs?
Yeah, unfortunately, there was no specific timeline from the mayor. All he could tell me was that county crews are out and about working around the clock. Again, they are dealing with downed trees, leaning power lines, road closures still in place. And so they are doing their very best to address all the problems as they become aware of them.
All right, Dylan and Cheta, thanks so much for that update. Let's turn things back over to Mark.
On Maui, efforts are also continuing to restore power following the storm. HECO says service is now back online for most of the 12,000 customers who lost power during the Kona low. The county is also currently under a 48-hour water conservation notice. Officials say storm debris has impacted operations at water treatment facility plants. And we talked to Senator Brian Schatz today on Sunrise for an update on Red Hill. His conversation with Grace Lee.
And I know earlier this week we reported that the congressional delegation from Hawaii asking the military for answers on the most recent foam spill. This has a lot of people really worried, and I just wanted to ask you, are you getting any answers?
We're getting answers, but we're getting them very slowly, frankly. PFAS is the chemical in question. It's a forever chemical. It's quite dangerous. It's alarming. We are getting preliminary data back, and we need to know two things, right? The first is there any remaining contaminant in the soil or anywhere else? The preliminary results have come back negative, but we're not done finding out whether there's any of this PFAS in the soil or anywhere else. And then the second question is, how the heck did this happen, and how do we prevent it from happening going forward? So I definitely share the frustration of citizens across Oahu who are exasperated, right? We have this new commander, a 3-star, whose job it is to shut down Red Hill, and then separate and apart from that, in the system, there's a PFAS leak. It's very, very serious, and we're doing as aggressive of oversight as we possibly can, including getting the GAO to do an audit of what exactly happened and how to prevent it going forward.
I was curious in asking for answers whether that included the recent revelation from Civil Beat that said there was actually a second foam spill in 2020 that we were just hearing about. Are you going to be inquiring about that as well?
Yes, that's the letter we sent to GAO for the audit. It was really prompted by that reporting that indicates that this may not have been the only PFAS spill. And so the Navy and the Department of Defense overall, the only solution for this, both from an environmental remediation standpoint, but also from a public trust standpoint, is total transparency. They're going through their process. I'm as frustrated as anybody else, but I am still confident that we are on track to drain Red Hill on the timeline that they had put forward, and maybe even a little faster than that.
So you believe that despite these most recent toxic foam spills, that they're still on track to defuel it on time?
We hope so. We don't know definitively, but we have asked about them to be sort of working on parallel tracks. The PFAS thing is very, very serious, but there's no indication that it will actually slow down the draining time frame. So I can't declare that, but that is the indication right now. That they're trying to get to the bottom of the PFAS question, both looking backward for accountability and looking forward for safety, but also not losing a beat on draining the tanks.
The omnibus bill that you are hoping to pass this week includes $1 billion to clean up Red Hill. Is that one of the biggest earmarks that we've seen for Hawaii in something like this?
Well, it's a big amount. It's not an earmark. It is part of the Department of Defense's budget. And the way we frame this is like, look, I'm not asking for a personal favor. The Department of Defense spilled petroleum above the aquifer that provides water for lots of people on the island of Oahu. And so this isn't some favor to me or to Maisie or anyone else. This is an obligation of the Department of Defense. But to answer your question bluntly, yes, it's one of the biggest amounts that we've gotten for something specific in the state of Hawaii.
Now, a warning for holiday travelers headed to the mainland. It could be tough to get where you want to go as severe weather moves across much of the country. Chris Van Cleve is in Reagan National Airport with this first alert.
This morning, the storm that made driving dangerous in the Pacific Northwest.
Pretty icy and pretty slick. Yeah, super slick. It was going like this.
And canceled about 200 flights in and out of Seattle's airport Tuesday, is just getting started. The system is now lining up to bring crippling snow and frigid temperatures to major Midwest airport hubs in Detroit, Minneapolis, and Chicago.
I really don't want to miss Christmas with my 2 boys and my husband.
Kelsey Hicks is trying to beat the storm that could steal Christmas. She's at a conference in Chicago and moved up her flight to Thursday morning, hoping to beat the snow and get back to her family in Arkansas.
I'm a little nervous that things aren't going to work out like I hope they would.
165 million Americans coast to coast are in the path of this blast of winter weather, hitting just days before Christmas.
I'm glad I'm leaving today.
Dumping snow in the Midwest and will head as far south as Texas, just as an estimated 113 million are expected to travel for the holidays.
If you're flying, be prepared to be delayed, disrupted, and canceled, and Christmas dinner may be at an airport.
But most Americans will be hitting the road, with nearly 102 million expected to be driving, including Mike Carter's son, who's trying to beat the storm home to Chicago.
We don't want anything to happen to our holiday plans. That's the whole scary part. Otherwise, we'll have 10 tons of food at home with nobody to eat it.
Why is it such a big deal that Chicago is getting snow right at this peak travel time? It's because it's a huge connecting city. 3 of the nation's 4 biggest airlines have hubs there. United told us during Thanksgiving that about 1 in every 5 of its passengers somehow pass through O'Hare during that holiday. So take that airport out of the mix, and you get delays and cancellations that will ripple across the country. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Washington.
And back here at home, Honolulu's airport has been wrestling with its own weather issues, especially to start the week. Lots of activity on the flight schedule. According to FlightAware.com, there are already 89 delays at Daniel K. Inouye International Airport. 10 flights have also been outright canceled, and those 89 delays, that was up from 20 just from a couple of hours ago. So just really keep an eye on what's happening. Before you're about to leave for the airport, check FlightAware.com for the latest on the delays as we head into some of the busiest travel days of the year.
And what do you say we get a glimpse of what your holiday weekend forecast is going to be like here on the islands? Here's our Guy Hoggy with that first alert.
A weak front's going to be moving in sometime on Friday. It'll likely only clip Kauai with a few showers, not going to hit the rest of the state. So we're going to see a long run of mostly dry weather with fairly light winds. And big surf as well, right? High surf warning remains posted today for north and west shores. It's going to be downgraded to an advisory, and another big swell coming in sometime on Friday. And look at those variable winds. They're going to be with us all the way through Friday, and then that front's going to kind of shift the winds a little bit, but we're still talking about light winds, and then light variable winds come back on Sunday. So the weather pattern looks like this. Clear skies in the morning, cool temperatures, and then in the afternoon, clouds will build up with a few spotty showers, clearing again in the overnight hours with cool temperatures in the early mornings.
All right, so hey, if you haven't purchased all those holiday gifts just yet, don't worry, we have some advice for you. It's coming from Christine Lazar. She filed this report.
'Tis the season for excess inventory, now sitting on retailers' shelves after the supply chain delays of 2021, according to Elaine Kwan of Quantified, a retail consulting firm.
So all the product that was supposed to arrive last year for the holiday season arrived for many retailers this Q1, January, February, March.
U.S. retailers have been sitting on more than $700 billion in inventory since the summer, a hangover from the COVID shutdown shopping frenzy. Money-saving expert Trey Bodge of TrueTrade.com says shoppers can expect deep discounts as retailers scramble to empty their warehouses.
So I would be looking for clearance level deals. I would say 40% to 70%. That's the sweet spot for me.
Shoppers we spoke with say inflation has them spending less.
This year for my nieces and nephews, I did not do birthdays, but they totally understood.
I know the price that I want to spend, like if it's $500 for the whole family, and then I stick with that budget.
Stores everywhere are offering discounts from buy one, get one free to 75% off. And experts warn if you find a good deal, don't wait.
With the excess inventory, some retailers have actually pulled back on how much additional inventory they're bringing in. So once the current inventory for some of these products sells out, it may be out for the rest of the year.
And these sales are expected to carry over into the new year. Also, some stores offer purchase protection like Target and Walmart. So if you buy something and then see it cheaper at another store, you can get a refund for the difference. In Los Angeles, I'm Christine Lazar, CBS News.
Quick check of what the internet is talking about today. And we're sticking with that holiday spirit and not just Christmas, but New Year's.
Love this time of year.
Yeah, check out what arrived at Times Square in New York, putting you in NYE mode. Yep, those numerals you're seeing right there, 2023. What? We're at 2023. They arrived at the Big Apple after wrapping up a coast-to-coast tour. They'll remain in position there on the ground. Great selfie station, right? Yep, and then they'll eventually be mounted in the days to come for that grand countdown that takes place every year. Very cool. I would love to have seen that.
Yeah, have you ever experienced a Times Square New Year's Eve?
No, but people always look miserable, so I would choose no. Speaking of people who might look miserable, though, Kerry Sanders is based out of Miami for NBC News, but today they decided to send him to North Pole, Alaska. He filed this report.
It's a late start this day for third-generation Alaskan Corey Eberhardt, 8:40 a.m. The sun still won't be up until 11 a.m. But darkness and extreme cold are no excuses to put off chores at his aptly named Taste of Alaska Lodge.
Feels like the middle of the night. The moon is up and it's really dark.
Yeah, sometimes you wake up and you find out it's still 3 in the morning and you think it could be 6.
Today on this, the shortest day of the year, the sun in the greater Fairbanks area will hug the horizon for only 3 hours, 42 minutes. In that darkness, life goes on.
All right, hey.
Dogs still pull sleds here, but 23-year-old native musher Izzy Rice tells me more often it's to give tourists a sense of what Alaskans hold dear, while in the process, dispelling myths.
But we got regular houses just like everybody else up here.
And everybody wonders if you live in igloos?
Yeah.
And did you take a dog sled to school as a kid?
I did not. No, I rode a bus.
Even locals say 4 months of more darkness than light can be depressing.
But during these very long dark days, there are some magical moments. The Northern Lights.
It's like colorful wind through the sky.
Alaska, our 49th state, a spot of stunning beauty that draws tourists from around the world, but rarely in winter.
Love it.
Yeah,
Is there any beauty in this darkness?
I think so. You can really see the stars. The stars are amazing too.
Alaska's indigenous people long ago celebrated the Chena Hot Springs.
When you use the healing waters, it makes you 10 years younger, and you feel like a young rooster.
But first, there's a rule for visitors from the lower 48, liquid courage. The springs are a steaming 106 degrees.
Oh, it's warm.
The largest group bobbing right now, Alaskans.
I just feel a little frozen and crispy.
The ironically named Summers family often goes viral,
We were praying for snow, then we got it.
explaining how they survived this brutal environment.
Stay inside. Yeah, we do stay inside.
Okay, I'm freezing. Let's get in here. Everybody warm me up here. Come on.
There we go.
The Christmas spirit, infectious.
You like magic?
Yeah.
Well, so do I.
With just days to go.
And from the North Pole, Merry Christmas! Ho, ho, ho!
Today is the winter solstice. That is the shortest day of the year. And I'll tell you what, we could use some sun because it's 40 degrees below zero. But as the shortest day of the year is underway, in just a few days, another guy who lives here in the North Pole is about to begin his longest day of the year. He's got the reindeer ready to go. He's excited. It's all about ho, ho, ho.
That's our Kerry Sanders
I asked
there.
Santa, could I hitch a
Oops,
ride
he's still
with
talking,
his
sorry.
sleigh to get out of these crazy temperatures? It's 112 degrees warmer where I live in Florida. But he told me, I'm sorry, Kerry, no room on the sleigh because there's just been so many good boys and girls this year.
Kerry Sanders, thanks so much for that report, and sorry for interrupting you there. Don't put me on the
What an
naughty
assignment.
list. Yeah, very cool. I love that story. You guys,
Magical town.
a lot more news to come as the afternoon unfolds. Mark's going to be back with you first at 4 on KHNL. Don't miss it. Bye-bye.